Okay, who wants to see Vaush saying that the USA needs to have military supremacy all around the world?
Now, if we're talking about like Russia, China, America is undeniably the most stabilizing force of those
Holy
three.
shit.
100%.
Oh my god, that is... imagine thinking that's like the best highlight to put at the start of a video. Holy shit.
I don't care about the Vietnam War when we're talking about like modern day, who's the most stable on the global stage. Right now...
That doesn't make any sense because the same exact motivations that caused the Vietnam War are the same exact motivations that cause US imperialism today. We want to do things that make the most money for American companies. That is fundamentally it. Yes, the Vietnam War obviously does matter. The reason why these things happen is because the USA wants to make money for American companies. That is the fundamental motivation behind American imperialism. That's why they got involved in Vietnam. It's why they get involved everywhere else. So just discounting that as if there's not a historical continuity here, as if it's not the same fucking shit, just with different paint on it, is stupid. Betrays a complete misunderstanding of history, really just a lack of any sort of material understanding of anything.
If we're talking about like Russia, China, America is undeniably the most stabilizing force of those three.
That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. For one, Russia is not a competitor with the USA. Russia is at most a regional power. Honestly, Russia is weaker than Brazil. Russia is not as strong of a country as Brazil, and that's saying a lot. Could you imagine Brazil doing global imperialism? I couldn't. So like, even mentioning Russia there is really stupid, and saying that America is undeniably the most stabilizing force compared to China, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. On what evidence are you basing that on? Let's look at just the last 30 years. We have US sanctions first on Iraq that led to the Iraq War. At least a million died. Honestly, way more from the indirect effects of the war. Afghanistan, the bombing of Yugoslavia, the fundamental US backing for the NATO bombing of Libya, fundamental US backing for the genocide of Yemen. Even if we just look at the last 30 years and we compare the US and China, they're literally not even in the same league. And I'm not even getting into other shit like more sanctions on Venezuela, on Syria, on Cuba, that fucking massively harm normal, everyday human beings. And that's fundamentally what they're for. Like, China doesn't do any of that. I think what was his example here is like, I think it was like that China saber rattles about Taiwan. Okay. The US doesn't just saber rattle. The US invades. The US kills people. The US destroys countries. There's not even a comparison there. There's not even a comparison about what China does like clandestinely on the world stage either. There's no fucking comparison between these two. This is absolutely nonsensical.
100%. Like, that's not even questionable, you know? So that's it. That's the only assessment. What I'm saying is that America is not the worst in terms of global genocide. I don't care. It's not a competition.
It's not a competition. You are literally just comparing them to other countries and saying that America is better. And literally the next fucking phrase, he says it's not a competition to get out of an argument that he can't respond to. America factually kills way more people than China, and far more than Russia as well. In terms of Russia couldn't even imagine actually being able to do it either. China absolutely has the power to do interventions, to force its economic will upon other countries and stuff like that. But it doesn't do any interventions, at least not since like the fucking Mao era, since the early fucking Deng era. And since he was like, I don't care about the Vietnam War, well then we can also discard that, to be fair. And it doesn't impose its political system on other countries via violent, undemocratic means as the US does all over the world. So there's no comparison here.
Why is Ukraine different from Yemen or any other US military involvement? Because A, Russia keeps threatening to nuke everyone. B, Ukraine is a full-on landed ground war.
So is Yemen. And far more people have died in Yemen. And Yemen is not even the only fucking US war. It's just one of many. It's not just Ukraine against Yemen. Though Yemen is much worse than Ukraine. It's Ukraine in the context of Russia not even being able to do shit to Ukraine, really. Obviously, it's a brutal fucking war, but they're not winning. So they can't do shit anywhere else either, obviously. They're not able to do the shit that the US does. And it's not about, if Russia was as powerful as the US, they would do the same. Russia can't be as powerful as the US. It's like on the same level of economic power as like a middling Latin American country. Give me a break. That scenario that you're saying where Russia somehow takes over from the US is impossible. So using that as a defense is nonsensical.
With another European country that...
It's not just the invasion of Ukraine versus Yemen. It's also not just even comparing Russia to the US, because Russia and the US on the global scale are not even comparable. It's Yemen, it's Iraq, it's Afghanistan, it's the clandestine and often overt US backing of fascists or neoliberals all over the world. It's the coups, it's the sanctions, it's the control of the global financial system, it's the massive coercion. Russia does nothing remotely on that level. They couldn't even if they wanted to, and they probably do want to, but they can't. So China, they're not as powerful as the US, obviously, so they can't do on that same level, but they can certainly do far more than they do now. But they don't. That speaks to a fundamentally different geopolitical strategy of these two great powers, one of which is clearly preferable to the other. You know, China's not going to coup your government and install a fucking neoliberal fascist dictator. China's not going to support Operation Car Wash 2.0 in Brazil and get rid of Lula. The US did support the first one, and they very well might support another. This is the fundamental difference between these two powers as they are today. Clearly, China could do more terrible things, but it doesn't. And I think the reason for that is because they've looked at the American experience, they've looked at what the US does, and they've seen how much that makes people hate the fucking US, and they've said, okay, maybe in the long term it would be better for us if we try to, win people over without installing fascist dictatorships that murder tens of thousands of people. Maybe we should do that. So it's a fundamentally different approach to geopolitics. It might be motivated by the same want for geopolitical power, influence, and etc. But it's not nearly as bad for the people who are on the other end of it as fucking the USA are. There's no comparison.
Distinctions here: is the U.S. more of a stabilizing force in Latin America than China or Russia? What? Well, at the moment, actually, considering the fact that Biden defended Lula and provided at this current moment right now, yes.
This is absolutely an insane talking point, by the way. So the initiative to install Bolsonaro Operation Car Wash was supported by the American Department of Justice and FBI for its entirety. In secret, by the way. This has been revealed a million times over by now. There's so much fucking evidence of this. It was supported initially by Obama and then continued by Trump. By the way, Biden was the vice president of the Obama administration. They specifically supported an operation to put Lula into prison to get Bolsonaro elected. To be like now, just because Biden happens to be unable to support Bolsonaro on aesthetic grounds, because obviously a Democrat in the US can't support someone who models himself on Trump, who's the best friends with Trump. At least not anymore, especially now with them storming the Capitol and shit, in the same vein as what happened in the US. Biden can't support that. So the US has such a long fucking history of attacking the Workers' Party, attacking Lula, trying to destroy Brazilian state companies like Petrobras, etc. This is going to be the subject. This is going to be the subject of my next video, specifically this. So wait for that, where I'll go into more depth. But to be like the US is a more stabilizing force because of Brazil, no. Give it a year or two, they're going to be right back to doing what they were doing before, trying to destroy Brazil in the name of neoliberalism. They're happy to have someone like a neoliberal who destroys the lives of Brazil's poor, provided it's someone who at least knows how to not say the quiet part out loud, as Bolsonaro obviously does not. That's what they've always done there. They literally helped put Lula in prison and bragged about it. Let me show you. This is Kenneth Blanco. He was the Deputy Attorney General or something like that of the USA from 2008 onwards, meaning he held the position during both the Obama and Trump administrations. High-level American DOJ official.
Our respective enforcement agencies continue to cooperate fully with one another and help achieve astonishing results. Brazilian prosecutors and law enforcement have been at the forefront of the anti-corruption fight in the past few years and have exemplified what a prosecutor and law enforcement agent should be. Indeed, this past week, the prosecutors in Brazil won a guilty verdict against former President Lula da Silva, who was charged with receiving bribes from the engineering firm OAS in return for helping in winning contracts with the state oil company Petrobras.
This for you is a stabilizing force in Latin America. Saying that the US is a stabilizing force in Latin America of all places at any point in history, the answer to that would be the same. You are fucking crazy. You are just a lying piece of shit. Unbelievable. The US has historically and still today backs right-wing neoliberals, from fascists to more centrist neoliberals, to the detriment of the vast majority of Latin Americans, and undergoes incredibly pervasive campaigns of interference to ensure that these people are in power as much as possible. They helped to put Lula into prison and they fucking bragged about it, as I just said. Give me a fucking break. They got Bolsonaro elected.
But generally, no. But again, by look, okay.
He's just falling over himself here.
If you believe this is a pretty low bar for stability now, yeah, well, too bad China and Russia can't meet it.
This is insane, dude. China basically does practically nothing to destabilize other countries. Most countries in the world, they do nothing. The US does a fucking ton to destabilize most countries in the world. This is just self-evidently an absolutely insane, like, imperialist somehow trying to rationalize his love of American imperialism and somehow trying to frame it as leftist and just fucking falling over himself. Like, that's an absolutely insane video. He's not going to say anything of any substance, obviously, because if you actually go over the evidence of what the US does and has done all over the world, not just in Latin America, but all over the world, and compare it to what China does and has done, there is no fucking comparison. Where's the Chinese Iraq? Where's the Chinese Libya? Where's the fucking, the Chinese Afghanistan? Where's the Chinese Yemen? Where's the Chinese coups? Where's the Chinese electoral interference? Where's the Chinese lawfare campaigns putting leftist candidates into fucking prison? Where are they? They're not there. As they would say, cope and sieve. There's no evidence for what you want to believe, for the imperialist shit that you want to spread. So shut the fuck up about it. At least give us the courtesy of shutting the fuck up rather than embarrassing yourself in public constantly. He's just like responding to people in his chat saying very obvious shit with, but China worse. How are they worse? Give us some examples. He doesn't provide them because they don't exist. That's simply how it is. You cannot defend the positions that he holds because the evidence for them does not exist. It's that simple. There was also a part of that video that I don't think I actually played, where he outright said that he supports American military supremacy.
Right now, the United States is kind of the lead country of the West, and the West is the only political bloc that is a democracy.
He's absolutely...
I only care about the U.S. having military superiority insofar as that is the case. But right now,
Holy shit.
You're goddamn right I want us to maintain that superiority.
He is literally like using the generic classic justification for American imperialism. We need a big military so that we can invade other countries and bring them freedom and democracy. I want to be clear here. What supporting US military superiority means is that you support what the US military does with that superiority. They invade Iraq, they invade Afghanistan, they help to bomb Yemen, they help to bomb Libya, they basically commit genocide all over the fucking world on a scale that no other country even comes close to. Vaush overtly supports American global genocide. It is that simple. And he does so with the generic, this is straight up George W. Bush argument, George W. Bush neocon framing. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, his fans will say that, you're exaggerating. Come on, it's not that bad. He just said that he supports American military superiority because they spread democracy around the world, because you're goddamn right I do. That's mask fucking off. He supports the US military. He supports the justifications for the shit that they do all around the world, which is abhorrent, disgusting, murderous, and hurts countless people in massive ways. This man, he supports genocide. That's what that means. If you support American military superiority, you support the genocides the American military carries out. It is that simple. Absolutely fucking disgusting.